Dr. Mara Ellison moved carefully through the quiet ruins of the Crystal City, her boots making soft sounds on the smooth stone floor. The world, Aurelia 9, had many mysteries, but none felt as strange and beautiful as these tall, shimmering structures left behind by an unknown ancient species. Some believed the builders had vanished thousands of years ago. Others believed they had left the planet by choice. Mara only knew one thing for sure. The ruins still held secrets, waiting to be found. The late afternoon sun shone through the cracks in the ceiling, scattering colors across the walls. Shades of blue and gold danced on the ground as though the walls were alive. Mara paused to adjust the small scanner attached to her wrist. A thin beam of light moved back and forth, searching for unusual shapes or energy signals. For weeks, her team had studied the ruins, but most of the work had been slow. The structures were large, and some rooms were hidden behind collapsed walls. Even with advanced tools, progress was difficult. Still, Mara did not mind. She enjoyed patience-driven science. Every detail mattered to her. As she stepped deeper inside the ancient corridor, the scanner beeped softly. Mara frowned and tapped the display. Strange. New life signs? She whispered to herself. The reading was faint, almost too faint to trust. But it was still there, a little pulse, like a heartbeat, coming from the lower chambers. Most creatures avoided these ruins, and no known animal on Aurelia 9 gave off such a small, yet unusual signature. Curiosity sparked inside her. She followed the reading until she reached a fallen archway. Half of it had crumbled, leaving a narrow passage she had to crouch to enter. Dust rose around her as she pushed aside loose stones. Her helmet light illuminated a small, hidden chamber on the other side. The room was darker than the others, and colder too. The walls were covered in thin crystal lines that glowed faintly, forming patterns she had not seen in any other section. But Mara's attention snapped instantly to the small shape curled near the far wall. A tiny creature lay there, breathing fast and shallow, its wings folded tightly against its body. Its scales were a dull silver, and its tail trembled as though it were frightened or in pain. Mara gasped softly. A dwarf dragon, here? She had only heard stories about dwarf dragons, small, rare creatures that the colonists often believed were weak or unimportant. Many called them uselings. Some even labeled them useless or silly compared to larger, majestic dragons found on other planets. Mara had never agreed with these ideas, but she had also never seen one alive. They were considered too shy and too fragile to survive near human settlements. Slowly, she stepped closer. The dragon lifted its head slightly, revealing bright violet eyes that shimmered like tiny stars. There was fear in those eyes, but also a spark of awareness. The creature tried to move away from her, but its right wing was pinned under a fallen crystal shard. The wing looked bruised, and the scales around it were cracked. "Oh no, you're hurt," Mara whispered. She knelt down, keeping a gentle distance so she would not frighten him further. Her scanner confirmed the dragon's body temperature was dropping too fast. He needed help soon. Mara noticed something else. Around the dragon's neck was a small metal tag. It was old and rusted, but she could still read the single word engraved on it. Useless. Her chest tightened. "Who would put that on you?" she murmured, sadness touching her voice. The dragon made a soft sound, a mix between a chirp and a sigh, and lowered his head. Mara felt her heart soften. She knew at once she could not leave him there. Titles like useless often came from misunderstanding, not truth. "I won't hurt you," she said in a calm, warm voice. "I want to help." The dragon's violet eyes blinked slowly, as though trying to decide if he could trust her. Mara reached into her side bag and took out a small thermal blanket. She opened it carefully, making sure not to startle him with sudden movements. Then, inch by inch, she reached for the crystal shard trapping his wing. "I'm going to lift this," she explained softly. "It might hurt a little, but I'll be quick." The dragon tensed but did not attempt to move away. Mara took a deep breath, slid her fingers under the shard, and lifted. The shard was heavier than she expected, but she managed to move it aside. The creature let out a soft whimper, but once free, he curled his wing closer to his body. "That's it. You're okay," Mara whispered. She wrapped him gently in the thermal blanket. The warmth made the dragon relax a little. His breathing steadied, though he still trembled lightly. As she stood up, Mara held him securely against her chest. He was warm, much lighter than she expected, and his scales felt surprisingly smooth beneath the blanket. Outside the chamber, she contacted her team. "Ellison to base," she said through her wrist comm. "I found something." An injured dwarf dragon. A pause followed. Then her supervisor's voice responded, surprised. "You found what? Are you sure? Those creatures avoid people." "I'm sure," she said. "He's small and scared. I'm bringing him to the field lab." "Proceed with caution," the supervisor replied. "And be careful not to get too attached." Mara ended the call but smiled faintly. It was too late for that. She was already attached. The walk out of the ruins took longer since she moved slowly to avoid shaking the creature. The sun had dropped lower in the sky, and the air outside felt cooler. A soft breeze blew across the dusty fields surrounding the ruins. The dragon peeked out from the blanket, looking around with wide eyes. He chirped softly, almost as though asking a question. "It's okay," Mara said. "You're safe now." When she reached the field lab, a small but advanced temporary shelter, she placed him gently on a padded examination table. Bright lights hummed overhead, and soft machines clicked as they powered on. The dragon looked nervous. His tail curled around him, and he watched each machine with caution. Mara kept her voice gentle. "These won't hurt you. They're all here to help." She scanned his wing more closely and found that although it was bruised, no bones were broken. With rest and warmth, he should heal well. She applied a soothing gel to ease the pain. The dragon flinched at first, but then relaxed as the cool gel settled in. "There you go, brave little one." When she finished, she stepped back and observed him quietly. He was still wrapped in the blanket, looking warmer and calmer now. His eyes, though tired, had regained a spark of intelligence. Mara opened her field notebook. "Subject appears young," she wrote. "Possible malnutrition. Possible history of mistreatment due to tag, labeling him as useless. Behavior. Cautious but gentle. Shows understanding of tone and movement. Highly expressive eyes. Notable sensitivity to touch." The dragon chirped again, this time softer and friendlier. It made Mara smile. "You must have a real name," she said. "A better one than what they gave you." The dragon tilted his head, as though curious. "For now," she said, "rest. Tomorrow we'll figure things out together." She dimmed the lights and allowed the room's temperature to rise slightly to give him comfort. As she watched him settle down, curling into the blanket, she felt a deep sense of responsibility, and something else too. Hope. This tiny creature, thrown away by others, deserved more. And she would make sure he got it. As the night settled over Aurelia 9, Mara sat by the dragon's side. His breathing slowed, becoming peaceful. His violet eyes finally closed as he drifted into sleep. Mara whispered softly, "You're not useless. Not at all." She didn't yet know that saving him would change not only his life, but hers, and perhaps even the future of the entire colony. But the first small spark had already been lit. The next morning came quietly on Aurelia 9. A soft golden light filled the field lab as dawn touched the horizon. Dr. Mara Ellison had only slept a few hours, but she woke quickly, her thoughts already on the small dragon resting in the examination room. She walked inside, expecting to see him still curled asleep in the blanket. But instead, she found an empty table. Her heart jumped. "Oh no. Where did you go?" Before she could worry further, a soft, chirping sound came from under the table. Mara bent down and found the dragon sitting there, wrapped snugly in the blanket like a small child hiding from the morning light. He blinked up at her with bright violet eyes. "Oh," she said with a soft laugh, relieved. "You scared me." The dragon chirped again, this time sounding almost proud of himself, as if he had accomplished something important by moving on his own. Mara knelt beside him and reached out her hand slowly. He leaned forward and touched her palm lightly with his nose. It was a small gesture, but it meant trust. "Good morning," Mara said kindly. "How is your wing?" She touched it very gently, checking the bruise. The scales were healing faster than she had expected. His species clearly had strong natural recovery abilities. The dragon didn't pull away. In fact, he let out a soft, humming sound, like he was enjoying the care. Mara stood and prepared a small bowl of warm nutrient liquid. She placed it on the floor beside him. "Here, try this." The dragon sniffed the bowl, then began to drink in small, careful sips. Mara watched him with growing affection. For something once tossed aside and labeled useless, he was surprisingly graceful in his movements, as though he was meant for something higher. When he finished, he looked up at her and tilted his head again, his favorite expression so far. "You know," she said, sitting cross-legged in front of him, "I can't keep calling you the dragon. And I refuse to use the other name on your tag." The dragon blinked. "I think you deserve a name with meaning," she continued. "Something hopeful," she thought for a moment. The sunlight came through the window at that exact time, falling perfectly on the dragon's silver scales. The light made him glow softly, like a small star waking up. Mara smiled. "How about Solvin? It means rising light." The dragon chirped a bright, happy sound. He seemed to like the name. He lifted his small wings a little, as if waving them in approval. "All right then," Mara said warmly. "Solvin it is." As the day continued, Mara performed more gentle tests, not to treat Solvin like a lab subject, but to make sure he was healthy. She checked his temperature, his breathing, his wing movements, and his reactions to sound and light. Solvin stayed calm through all of it, watching her with steady eyes. During one test, she rolled a small metal ball across the table to see how he reacted to motion. Solvin's eyes widened in curiosity. In a burst of energy, he hopped forward, tapped the ball with his nose, and then chased it in excited little leaps. Mara laughed quietly. "So you like games, do you?" Solvin chirped proudly. After a while, he jumped onto her lap without warning and curled up there, wrapping his tail neatly around himself. His scales warmed gently against her. Mara froze for a moment. She had not expected him to get this close so soon, but then she relaxed and placed a hand softly on his back. "You trust so easily," she whispered. "Even after everything you've been through." The dragon hummed, sounding peaceful. Outside, the colony was beginning a new research cycle. Ships landed and departed, delivering supplies and bringing in new reports. But the peaceful morning did not last. Around noon, Mara received a message from Colony Control. "Dr. Ellison, are you available for briefing?" The voice was steady but carried a note of concern. Mara looked down at Solvin, who had fallen asleep on her lap. She gently lifted him and placed him in a padded basket lined with soft cloth. He curled into the blanket with a tiny sigh. She activated her comm. "Yes, I'm free. What's going on?" "There was an unusual reading from orbit," the controller explained. "A drifting object, about the size of a shuttle, appeared within the last 48 hours. It's emitting unstable energy waves. We're still analyzing them." Mara frowned. "Unstable how?" "We're not sure yet. But the waves are spreading slowly. We think it could affect weather patterns or communications if it gets closer." Mara felt a small knot form in her stomach. Aurelia 9 was usually a calm world. Strange ruins, yes, but dangerous cosmic events? Rare. "I'll monitor the readings from here," she said. "Maybe the ruins have related data. Their crystals respond to certain frequencies." "Good idea," the controller replied. "We'll send live updates." When the call ended, Mara glanced back at Solvin. The little dragon was still asleep, but his breathing seemed slightly restless, as though he sensed something from far away. She made a note in her log. Solvin reacted to orbital anomaly? Possible connection? It seemed unlikely, yet something told her not to dismiss the idea. Later in the afternoon, Solvin woke and wandered around the lab, exploring every corner with bright interest. He touched tools with his nose, peeked into storage boxes, and even climbed onto one low shelf before sliding down like he was playing. Mara watched him with amusement. "You're very curious," she said. "Maybe too curious." Solvin looked at her and chirped loudly. as if saying that curiosity was the best thing in the world. While he explored, she continued studying data from the ruins. The crystal walls had reacted faintly during her rescue mission yesterday. They seemed sensitive to certain energy patterns, almost as if they were alive in their own way. She pulled up a hologram of the ruins layout. Maybe there's a connection between the crystals and the drifting object, she murmured. Something the ancient builders understood. At that moment, Solvin suddenly stopped moving. His wings lowered, and he let out a soft, uneasy sound. Mara turned immediately. Solvin? What's wrong? He looked up at the ceiling, his eyes narrowing. Then he chirped again, sharper this time. The sound was not playful, it was alert. A few seconds later, Mara's tablet beeped. A new wave from the orbital object had reached the atmosphere. Solvin had sensed it before the instruments. Mara stared at him in surprise. How did you? But Solvin shook slightly and curled near her feet, seeking safety. She knelt beside him and stroked his back gently. It's okay, you're safe, I promise. He relaxed slowly under her touch, though his violet eyes stayed focused on the window, watching the sky with unusual seriousness. For a creature that had seemed so small and fragile, he suddenly felt connected to something much larger. That evening, Mara decided to introduce Solvin to fresh air. She stepped outside with him, wrapped comfortably in her arms. The light breeze made his scales rustle softly. He lifted his head and sniffed the air with interest. Aurelia 9 always looked beautiful at dusk. The sky shifted from blue to purple, and the two moons began to rise together. Mara walked with Solvin toward a quiet hill just behind the lab. Once they reached the top, she let him stand on the ground. Solvin looked all around him, amazed. He spread his wings a little, testing the air. They were healing well, but still too weak for flight. Careful, Mara warned gently. No flying attempts yet, Solvin chirped as if promising. Though the spark in his eyes made Mara think he might try anyway when she wasn't looking. He walked around her feet in slow circles, occasionally pressing his small head against her leg in a quiet sign of affection. Mara sat down on the grass, and Solvin hopped into her lap again. You know, she said softly, I've studied many creatures, but I've never met anyone quite like you. The dragon lifted his head, his eyes shining in the moonlight. You're not useless, she continued. You're special, and I think you may even be important. Solvin blinked slowly, then curled up again, humming quietly. It was a peaceful moment, until a sudden bright pulse appeared in the sky. Mara gasped. Solvin sat up sharply, tense. The orbital object had emitted another wave stronger than the last. But this time, Solvin didn't hide. He stood on her lap, wings slightly open, as if preparing himself for something unknown. Mara watched him with growing wonder. Solvin, she whispered, just what are you connected to? The wind brushed past them gently, and the dragon's eyes reflected a deep, ancient awareness, one far older than his small body suggested. Mara felt a shiver move down her spine. Their journey was only beginning. The next morning on Aurelia 9 began quietly, but an unusual stillness filled the air. Dr. Mara Ellison felt it the moment she stepped outside the field lab. The wind was softer than usual, and even the birds that lived near the hills seemed strangely silent. The sky looked normal, yet there was a faint shimmer high above, almost invisible unless someone was looking closely. That shimmer made Mara uneasy. Inside the lab, Solvin the dwarf dragon was wide awake and walking in small circles on the table. His scales glowed with a soft silver light, brighter than anything Mara had seen before. Every few seconds he would stop, look up at the ceiling, and chirp a low, tense sound. Mara approached him calmly. Solvin, are you sensing the energy waves again? Solvin turned to her and chirped sharply, lifting his wings a little. His violet eyes were full of awareness, almost too much for such a small creature. Mara reached out and touched his back gently. His scales were warmer than usual. You're changing, she whispered. Something inside you is waking up, isn't it? Solvin didn't answer, but his tail curled around her wrist as if telling her she wasn't imagining things. A new alert soon arrived on her tablet. Orbital object energy wave stronger than predicted. Possible atmospheric disruption. Please advise all field teams to stay alert. Mara frowned. She knew the colony scientists were trying to understand the object, but the data looked stranger each time. While she studied the readings, Solvin moved closer and tapped the screen with his nose. He then chirped twice soft, urgent sounds. Mara blinked. You want me to look somewhere else? Solvin tapped the side of the screen again, then spread his wings lightly before folding them back. It was a gesture she had learned to read. Follow this. She opened the ancient crystal energy logs from the ruins. Those logs had recorded patterns of light and sound inside the ruins for hundreds of years. The energy waves from the orbital object seemed to match certain patterns in those old recordings. Mara's eyes widened. No way. Solvin. The ruins reacted to the same type of energy. Solvin chirped loudly, as if confirming her suspicion. She stared at him in amazement. How do you know all this? You're just a dwarf dragon. But somehow it feels like you're remembering something. Solvin tilted his head, his gaze gentle but focused. Later in the day, Mara wrapped Solvin securely and carried him back to the ancient ruins. She wanted to test something she would normally question. But her instincts told her this was important. The moment she stepped into the first hall, the crystals on the walls lit up faintly, glowing in the presence of Solvin. Mara froze. The crystals hadn't responded this strongly before. Solvin chirped in a quiet voice. He seemed calmer here, as if the ruins were familiar. Mara held him closer. You've been here before, haven't you? She whispered. She walked toward the deeper chambers. As they entered the central room where she first found Solvin, something strange happened. The crystal walls began to hum softly. The light inside the crystals pulsed in a gentle rhythm. Solvin's silver scales glowed brighter. Mara watched in awe as tiny sparkles of light danced across his wings. He lifted his head proudly, as though some forgotten strength was returning to him. What is this place to you? Mara asked softly. Your home? Your birthplace? Or something else? Solvin slowly unfurled his wings. The bruised one had nearly healed, and both wings shone with a faint, warm glow. He hopped from her arms and stood in the center of the chamber. A moment later, the crystal floor beneath him emitted a soft ring of light, circling around his small body. Mara stepped back in shock. The ruins are responding to you. Solvin looked at her, then at the ceiling, then at the glowing patterns under his feet. He chirped a long, steady note. The crystals responded with a brighter pulse, matching his sound exactly. Mara covered her mouth. You're not just reacting to the energy waves your kind created these harmonics. She remembered something from the ancient archives. Theories that the crystal builders used small creatures to stabilize energy flows. Most scientists dismissed the idea, because no creature alive matched that description. But Solvin did. He was one of them. A guardian species. Mara carried Solvin outside again. She felt a growing urgency. If the orbital object is using the same energy, your species might have been made to control it, or stop it. Solvin chirped in agreement, then hopped down to the ground. He walked to the edge of the hill and spread his wings. Mara held her breath. Solvin. You still can't fly. Not yet, but Solvin kept his wings open. A soft glow ran through them like gentle fire. He bent his legs slightly and jumped. For 1 second, his wings caught the wind, and he lifted into the air. His small body rose about a meter before he wobbled, lost balance, and landed safely on his feet again. Mara ran forward. Oh my goodness, Solvin. Are you hurt? Solvin chirped excitedly, hopping up and down. His wings shook with joy, not pain. He had flown just a little, but it was flight. Mara felt her eyes fill with emotion. You flew. Solvin, you actually flew. He spread his wings again proudly, demanding acknowledgement. She laughed through her tears. All right. Yes. He pressed his head against her leg, and she stroked the top of his small silver head. You aren't weak. You just needed someone to believe in you, she whispered. Solvin chirped softly, almost like saying thank you. As the day moved into evening, the sky shifted again. A stronger shimmer appeared above the clouds, making the air tremble lightly. Solvin tensed immediately. His wings rose, and he let out a deep, worried trill. Mara checked her tablet and saw the newest reading. Atmospheric fluctuation detected. Harmonics similar to the ruins. She looked at Solvin. His scales were glowing brighter than ever. You're reacting faster than the sensors. You're part of this energy. The dragon chirped in a high tone, turning toward the direction of the anomaly. Mara felt a quick shiver. Do you feel called by it? Solvin didn't hesitate. He stepped forward. Wings spread wide. Then something extraordinary happened. A wave of gentle light moved across his body from his head down to his tail. His scales lit up like tiny stars. The air around him shimmered lightly. His wings grew stronger. The faint bruising disappeared completely. Mara stared in wonder. Solvin, you're awakening. The little dragon crouched low, ready to jump again. This time, Mara didn't stop him. He leaped and soared. Not far, not high, but far enough to show he had control now. His wings glided smoothly for several seconds before he landed gracefully. Mara felt her heart swell with pride. You're meant for the sky, she whispered. And I think the sky is calling you, Solvin chirped in a determined tone. He turned his face toward the shimmering disturbance above the clouds. His expression was no longer frightened. It was focused, strong, ancient. He knew something important, and Mara understood it too. You're the key, she said softly. Your species once protected this world from things like this. And now, you're remembering how. Solvin hopped onto a small rock, raised his wings, and let out a long, clear call. It echoed through the valley like music. The crystals in the ruins behind them glowed gently in response. Mara stood beside him, resting her hand on his back. Your wings are waking up, she whispered. Your power too, Solvin chirped again, softer this time, leaning against her hand for a moment. The bond between them had grown into something deep and unbreakable. Solvin trusted her fully, and Mara trusted him. They were partners now, not just a scientist and a creature, but two beings facing something much larger than themselves. The sky shimmered again, brighter, stronger. Solvin spread his wings wide. Mara looked up at the trembling clouds and then down at her small friend. Solvin, the colony will need your help, and I'll be with you. We'll face this together. The dragon chirped with confidence, almost like a promise. Night began to fall, but the light within Solvin did not fade. If anything, it grew stronger. Tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow, Solvin would rise higher. His first true flight was coming, and with it, the beginning of hope. The dawn of the next day arrived with a strange glow in the sky. The shimmer above Aurelia 9 was no longer faint or gentle. It had grown brighter, spreading wide like a silent storm waiting to unfold. The colony's sensors were beeping non-stop, filling the control center with alerts and warnings. Dr. Mara Ellison stood outside the field lab, holding Solvin close to her chest. The small dwarf dragon was unusually quiet. His violet eyes were fixed on the sky, glowing softly with determination. Mara whispered to him, "It's getting worse, isn't it?" Solvin chirped in a low tone, nodding his small head. His wings opened slightly as if responding to the energy coming from above. Even without words, Mara could feel what he felt, an urgent call. A pull from the sky that only he could understand. She stroked his back gently. Are you ready, Solvin? Whatever is coming, we'll face it together. Solvin pressed his head against her hand, giving her courage. By early morning, the colony leaders called for a full meeting. Scientists, engineers, and field workers gathered around a large holographic map. The drifting orbital object was now releasing energy waves every few minutes, and the waves were getting stronger. Some people feared the object might explode. Others worried it could damage the atmosphere. When Mara entered the meeting room with Solvin perched on her shoulder, all eyes turned toward them. Many had heard rumors of the dwarf dragon who glowed like the ruins, but few had seen him in person. Her supervisor stepped forward. Dr. Ellison, we understand you believe this creature Solvin has a connection to the energy waves? Mara nodded calmly. He does. The ruins reacted to him directly, and he reacts to the anomaly before any of our sensors. I believe his species once stabilized energy rifts like this. He may be our only chance. Some people murmured in surprise. Others looked uncertain. One engineer crossed his arms. With respect, we're depending on a small dragon to save the colony? Solvin puffed his chest and chirped loudly, almost offended. The room fell silent. Mara placed a protective hand on his back. Solvin is not just a small dragon. He is a guardian species. The crystals in the ruins respond to the same harmonics that the anomaly is producing. His body naturally produces these harmonics. Her supervisor nodded slowly. And what do you propose? Mara took a breath. We work together. I will create a safe path that aligns with the harmonic waves. Solvin will emit his natural energy patterns to stabilize the rift. If we can reduce the instability, the object may neutralize instead of collapsing. The room exchanged worried looks. Someone asked, but how will he get close enough? Mara glanced at Solvin's wings. Because today, he will fly. Solvin chirped, strong and confident. An hour later, Mara and Solvin stood on the highest hill near the ruins. The wind was shifting strangely, moving in circles that felt unnatural. The shimmer in the sky grew thicker, flashing in silver and purple streaks, like a crack forming in a window. Mara checked her handheld device. Solvin. The harmonic pattern is rising. It's now matching the ones in the ruins almost exactly. Solvin's scales brightened, responding instantly to the new frequency. His wings glowed with a warm silver fire that shimmered with each breath he took. Mara to control, she said through her comm. We're beginning the approach. Copy that, the controller replied. Be careful. Energy spikes are unpredictable. Mara looked at Solvin. Ready? Solvin stepped forward. His wings spread wide, stronger, brighter, more beautiful than ever before. The wind gathered around him, lifting the edges of his silver feathers. Then he jumped. This time, he didn't wobble. He didn't fall. He soared powerful and steady as though he had been born for this exact moment. Mara's eyes filled with tears of pride. Go. Solvin. You can do it. Solvin rose higher, circling above her. Each flap of his wings made the air shimmer. Trails of gentle light followed behind him, painting the sky with silver arcs. He chirped loudly. A call of strength. The ruins responded. Their crystal towers lit up, sending beams of soft blue light into the sky. The beams aligned with Solvin's glowing path, forming a pattern, a map guiding him upward. Mara realized the truth. The ruins are waking. They're helping him. The sky answered with a deep, trembling sound. The rift in the clouds stretched wider, showing a swirling center of unstable light. Solvin flew straight toward it. As he neared the shimmering rift, the air grew hot and bright. Energy waves pulsed like invisible tides, pushing him back. Solvin flapped harder, determined. His wings shone brighter, producing harmonic sounds that echoed like gentle bells. The energy pushed again, stronger this time. Solvin cried out. But he didn't give up. He angled his wings and flew in a spiral pattern that matched the ancient recordings Mara had studied. He remembered. He knew exactly what to do. From below, Mara watched breathlessly. You're doing it, Solvin. Keep going. Solvin reached the center of the rift. His small body glowed so brightly it looked like a comet in the sky. He opened his wings fully and released a harmonic pulse. It spread outward in a beautiful wave of silver light. The swirling rift responded, slowing, then steadying. Another pulse, and another. The rift stopped widening. The energy waves weakened. Solvin sang louder, sending harmonics stronger than anything Mara had ever heard. The ruins echoed his call, creating a network of sound and light that surrounded the rift like a protective shield. The final pulse was the brightest. A soft explosion of silver light filled the sky, gentle, not destructive. The rift glowed white, then slowly closed, sealing itself like a healed scar. The shimmer faded. The sky returned to calm blue. Aurelia 9 was safe. Solvin drifted downward slowly, tired but glowing with joy. His wings flickered softly, his strength nearly spent. Mara ran forward. As he landed gently in her arms, she held him close, overwhelmed with emotion. You did it. Solvin. You actually did it, she whispered. Solvin chirped weakly, but happily. He rested his small head against her shoulder. His scales still shone faintly, like soft stardust. The colony scientists arrived moments later. Everyone stared at Solvin in awe. The same people who once doubted him now looked at him with deep respect. Her supervisor stepped forward. "Dr. Ellison, it seems you were right. He saved us." Mara smiled proudly. "He saved all of us because someone finally gave him a chance." A small child stepped forward shyly and asked, "Is he really the dragon they called useless?" Solvin looked at the child and chirped softly, almost laughing. Mara shook her head. "No. That name no longer belongs to him. His name is Solvin Rising Light." The colony cheered gently, careful not to startle him. Mara lifted Solvin higher so everyone could see the little hero clearly. He spread his wings once more, glowing with pride. From this day forward, he would never again be called useless. He was a guardian, a friend, a symbol of hope. In the weeks that followed, the colony built a special perch near the ruins for Solvin. He often sat there, watching the sky with bright eyes, ready for any new disturbance. His wings grew stronger every day, allowing him to fly longer and higher. Mara continued her research, now with Solvin as her partner. She learned more about dwarf dragons and their forgotten history. They weren't weak or unimportant. They had been protectors, guiding ancient civilizations through energy storms long ago. How many more secrets did Aurelia 9 hold? How many more dragons once lived here? Solvin always chirped when she asked these questions, as though encouraging her to find the answers. He had become more than a research subject. He was family. One evening, as the orange light of sunset touched the ruins, Solvin climbed onto Mara's shoulder. His scales glowed softly, peaceful and warm. Mara smiled. "Thinking about flying again?" Solvin chirped proudly. She pointed toward the sky. "Go on then. Show them how a dwarf dragon truly soars." Solvin spread his wings and leaped. He rose into the glowing sky, circling once, twice, and then 3 times. The wind carried him easily. His joy echoed through the valley in bright, happy chirps. Mara watched with a warm heart. A creature once named Useless now danced in the sky with confidence and joy. Sometimes the smallest beings carried the greatest light, and on Aurelia 9, a human woman and a dwarf dragon proved that hope could rise even from the smallest wings. The end.